everybody. Thanks for joining me today, Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. Yeah, we're not going. Got to get up early tomorrow to go to Texas. And we're playing in Texas. I'll tell you where we're playing in a couple of minutes here. And thanks for joining me. And I see all my friends out there. And Jace, Heidi, Paul's back. Yeah, Paul. Little Paul beat there. So I watched the Beatles special. On Disney had the Beatles special thing going on. It was supposed to be it's 60 hours of footage and 3 million hours of tunes and sounds. It was really good, but it's a little slow. But I love the Beatles, and what's amazing is they wrote the songs with the film's cameras going. And not only just songs, Let It Be and all those types of songs, like just big mega hits. And so I loved it, My sister watched it. She said, that's really slow. But I'm, musicians, you can get into it a little bit more, unless you're really a crazy Beatle fan. So I was taken back by the drums. Ringo had drums, and it was what was the company? It was a rental set. It was a Maple kit, and what was it? Something rental, London Drum Center Rentals or something. And I thought, wow, that's weird. And there's a sticker right on the tom. You could see it. What publicity for these guys, It's like great. Yeah. And I actually rented drums when we did the Black Sabbath, the Humanizer album. We did that in Wales, studio in Wales, and we rented back then. It was a Tama kit. And that's the drum sound. The great drum sound by Mac was the producer. And that was a rental kit. And that's the Computer God intro, which went. Then the song came. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Sounds like horns when I sing it. But that was a rental kit, and it was really good. We changed the heads on them and stuff. And, Mac's just a phenomenal engineer and producer and stuff. So Ringo had a rental kit, and I was like, wow. It would have been cooler to have one of his own kits, but I guess that was 1969. He still can't, it'd be funny if he was still using that Oyster Pearl, Oyster, or as New York we say it, Oyster Pearl drum set, the beginning. That set's probably worth $1 zillion too. It's funny. But watching them, I see they're in one location at a Twickenham rehearsal soundstage, and I see parts of a towel. I put towel, especially on the floor tom. You had a towel. And then you start listening to these Beatles records. Some of the parts it doesn't sound like drums, It sounds like a rhythm thing. And I did it once maybe twice on recordings here in my studio when I was doing some sessions. I wanted something in the background, so I just went. Something you wouldn't really know, because if it was the drum, it'd be loud. And it's the drum, floor tom. So this was. I went, that's how he's getting those sounds, And on the snare, it makes it really dead. Like, the tom doesn't match. It has to be muted. I don't know if he did, but those fills that Ringo did, like, you want to stay up there, will you? Okay. Well, a lot of the fills on some of those songs. Wow, that's so dead. And sometimes Ringo played like this, what I'd never noticed. He's tapping out the time, so the hi-hat's opening. Like that. So that's how we got the sound. I guess you can double it up. See, that's too ringy. So I went, okay, I got to try that. I'm going to record some stuff like that because I did it on the tom, but I didn't do it on the snare drum just to see what if it fits the song. But man, that was cool. I loved watching it. Those guys, they played so well together, and then they played on the roof, and that was great. All the people, some people got pissed off, some people liked it, you know. And then the cops tried to get up there, the bobbies, so they call them. They kept telling them, we go, the bobbies come to the front door. It's on the roof of Apple EMI recording studios. And cops are there. And there's a whole bunch of people up there. The Beatles are playing and the equipment. And they tell the cop, well, you might not hold another person going up there. You better wait a bit. And oh, okay. And they prevented the cops from going up there. I thought that was cool. And I went there a couple of years ago. So I went there because that was like a bucket list thing. I've been to London a lot of times, you know, many times over the years. And I never went to Abbey Road, you know, where they cross the street, that album cover. So finally went there, and that's where that crosses the street from the studio where they recorded this stuff, EMI and Apple offices, right across the street. And there's the lines in the street and the whole thing. So when I get there, it's like all these people are crossing the street and everybody's taking pictures. It was funny. But the street is a regular street. There's traffic, right? So you got to go in between traffic. So you traffic, everybody's looking, okay, now. And they go up and their friends there with the camera. People walking barefoot like Paul did on the album cover. It was hilarious, you know. So I got to find those pictures. So I got me walking across that street, which I thought was very cool. But I didn't realize that was the rooftop that they played on. Up there, and that was their last concert. So I love the Beatles, you know, it's cool. I didn't like them. I liked them when I was younger, but it wasn't heavy. You know, I was listening to Hendrix and Blue Cheer and some Sabbath and all that stuff. And the Beatles are a little poppy. But now that I'm mature, I listen to it and I go, that's fantastic. One thing that the Beatles did, if you listen to some of the records, they mixed the drum levels. Nobody really mixes the drum levels anymore. When drums come in, either you're playing soft, then you get the chorus louder. Soft. You listen to some of the Beatles records, like Paperback Writer. When the band comes in, the drums come down because you lose the snare drum. You go, man, a lot of parts of snare drums cranking. They didn't put the towel on so much on some of these songs, but it's cranking, and then the band comes in and it's mixed down a little bit. Oh, wow, how cool is that, you know? So anyway, that's what I did with Lala. Hi, Lala.
Hello.
For how many hours was that? 2 hours, 3 nights.
A lot.
Maybe I'll watch it again. Make some popcorn. I wanted to teach you something here. And also, these are the lovely sawtooth drums, the high-end drums. These are 6-ply hickory, beautiful kit. And I love playing these drums. They got such a great tone. And 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, 24 by 14 bass drum, and the snares are 6.5 by 14. Hardware is all ChromaCast. Check it out online. There might be some floating advertisements on this thing here that you can check out as well. All right, so I wanted to show you this. Okay, this is actually, let me get back to the Beatles for a second, because I played with John Lennon when I was 16. So I was watching this going, wow, I played with him? I can't really remember. It was so long ago. It was 1975. I remember little bits of it. But I was like, holy crap. You know, I'm not bragging or anything, but I was just like, I was just kind of surprised myself. Was that me? Man. So I'm going to dig out and see if I can find some pictures, too. In the garage, there's a box of old pictures. I'll look at that, too. But, yeah, I've totally enjoyed it. So anyway, these are the killer drums. I just got the set. We're going to Texas tomorrow with Last in Line. And we're playing First Date on Thursday, which is Dallas, Buda, Texas. Never been there, never heard of it. Buda, B-O-D-A, Texas. And then Houston. So we're doing 3 shows, and I got my East Coast kit they sent over there. Joe Fuco owns the house. Not my house, but the drum house. And we got the drums all ready to go. We got heads on them and everything, so I'll be using the new kit, which is this kit. I love this kit. Sounds great. Killer bass drum, too. So we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see you guys there. Whoever wants to come down, come on down. We're doing VIPs. You get to meet us. You get to come to the sound check. And, you know, then we do a picture session, and then we do autographs. And you can, you know, ask all those questions you've been wondering about us, if there are any. All right, so this here is a double paradiddle. Right, left, and foot. One and 2. 1, 2, and right? So right, left, foot. So that's what it is. It's a regular double paradiddle without the foot is right, left, right, left. Right? So you take the foot out of the equation. So you got right, left. Now what I'm going to do is double up with the right hand and the foot. Actually, that's the way I want to do it. So I take that, and I start opening the hi-hat, like this. All right, I didn't open the hi-hat yet. Now I'm going to open the hi-hat, like that. I didn't practice this. It's hard. Anyway, so what I'm going to do to that is I'm going to go. So it's 2 beats. That's 3, 4. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to open a hi-hat. Kind of playing like this. 1 and a 2 and a 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Right? Once you get that down, you can start doing things like. cool, and it's kind of similar to the "Fool in the Rain" song by Zeppelin. See? So all that is and the beat is and you open the hi-hat. The second right hand. So it's just like playing a triplet in the 4/4 feel. So you have 4/4. Then you put two of them together. So you guys got that? It'll be a test next week. So, okay, before we get to questions, I want to show you something that I found in the closet again. Showed this a long time ago. This is a 1980 Black Sabbath tour jacket. I don't know why it's so small, because it's never going to fit me, but it fits Lala, but this is a classic, so we don't really want to wear it out.
No.
Ah, shit.
No.
There we go. There we go. So this is the front. Where is it? Right? Can you see that?
Yep.
It says Black Sabbath. But the back is cool. Look at this. This is when everybody did cool jackets. Heaven and Hell Tour. Is there a date on that?
1980. Is that what it says?
Look at that. Love it. That's a classic piece of rock memorabilia. And you could win this jacket. No, I'm kidding. If you buy one of Vinny's shirts, these are the new shirts we got. You see it? You can see it. Drum Monster with my name on it. We just got them in. You can check them out online at my website or on this site here. And we also got heads too. Plug, plug, plug. Love the heads. They're going quick. Here's the Drum Monster head. And they're autographed. By who, I don't know. No, it's by me. Okay, let's take some questions. Okay.
How was the Florida Rock Camp?
Florida Rock Camp was a lot of fun, and I met some great people there. The guys in my band, they were, really good. They weren't professional musicians, but that's cool because you could show them a lot of different ways to approach playing together, and they can learn something, and I could teach something, and all the counselors help out. So it was a fantastic time. Joe Perry showed up, but he was a bit late because of bad weather. And then Vernon Reed was great. He was a cool guy. I never met him, and what a great guitar player. And then Tico Torres, who's a good friend of my brother Carmine from Bon Jovi. Not Carmine from Bon Jovi, but Tico from Bon Jovi. And I finally got to meet him. We've played together, but big festivals in Europe, so you never get to see some of the people who are your friends or who are from California. And there was a lot of festivals in Europe I've played where you get there and you go, holy shit, everybody's from California. Like Motley Crue and Van Halen and Y&T. I mean, everybody's on the show, and everybody, hey, what are you doing? It's like you're back in the U.S. It's funny. So anyway, so that camp was good, and then there's another camp coming up with the Scorpions, and that's the week after next. When I come back, then we go to Vegas, and that's the Scorpions and Zakk Wylde, good friend Zakk Wylde, and good friend, who's that singer guy from Skid Row? Lala.
Sebastian.
Yes, and it's his birthday. I love him. He's great. He likes to jam. And you know what song he likes to play? Black Sabbath, Bible Black. It's hard to hear the song with just drums. Sorry. But he loves playing that. And we did a tour down in South America once with him, George Lynch, and Phil Soussan on bass, and me. Anybody else on that band? And luckily, Brent Wood played guitar because George didn't learn any of his songs. So he didn't know any of the intros to Skid Row songs, you know, and all the girls are in the audience waiting for the intro to some of those Skid Row songs. You know, they're geared a little toward the female gender. And George didn't know him, sitting some weird notes and stuff. It was unbelievable. A memory. Let's call it a memory. Wasn't a great tour, but it was a memory. So, all right, let's take another question.
What made you turn your sticks, around?
What made me turn my sticks around? I always say this is for girls, this side, but, I'm kidding. I don't know. I think because Carmine didn't really turn his sticks around back when I was learning how to play. In this, what year was that? 60s, mid-60s, maybe late 60s into 70s. I don't know. I started turning them around. And I got used to it. You get a bigger, heavy sound. When you turn them back this way, it doesn't sound as good. It sounds lower. So I went this way. Maybe it was prepping me to play with Black Sabbath and when I got older. I don't know. I was born on Friday the 13th. So, and then I wind up playing with Black Sabbath. When I first heard that first album, I went over to my friend's house. Check this out, man. And the thunder and lightning thing going on, the rain in the beginning of that song. Then Black Sabbath came in. When holy... wow, that's unbelievable, man. It was scary. And like I always said, the drum sound was not my kind of sound I liked. Bill Roy was great, but I didn't like the dead sound. I liked the big sound like Bonzo had. A lot of ring and just big. But those albums are scary. I loved it. Who thought I would be playing with them? I don't know. Okay, let's take a next question.
Do you set up your bass drum at a slight angle since you have the two rack toms?
Yeah, I always played, in the house when we grew up, Carmine and I, he's 11 years older than I am. He had the first real set was a Gretsch set. And all the sets back then, which were like jazz musicians using them, Buddy Rich and all the guys, it was a bass drum, and then it had a thing on the side, and you could mount the tom on it. So the tom was always to the left of the bass drum, you see? So if I had one tom, I could move the bass drum over a little bit, but it's still on a bit of an angle. So that's how this started. Then when I had two toms, I really needed to move the bass drum over. And then as toms got deeper, as you see here, it starts to hit the bass drum. So I wind up, angling the bass drum this way, like a double bass kit, if you had another bass drum here. So I got used to playing like that. And, when I sit down, my foot's going this way anyway. So I think it's faster. That's how that started. Maybe it's because I walk like this. I don't know. I don't walk that bad like that. You ever tell, I'm really into the way people walk. I could tell the way they are by the way they walk. Like if I walked into a clinic and I was walking like, my ass was wobbling and all that shit, I would think I wouldn't be able to play good, So, you got to have the walk. That's what I think, right? Walk this way. Or the way I play it. if you got a kind of simple walk, you're probably going to play like this. If you got a New York kind of walk, right? If you're from Iowa, Lala's from Iowa. No, I'm
No,
not.
I'm not. My family is.
Family
I'm
is you
not.
play like this. No, I'm kidding. It's just in the walk. Okay, next question.
How do you play the end of "Lonely Is the Word"?
I have no idea.
Jace wanted to know.
Jace,
Jace.
what are you doing here, man? You keep breaking sticks and skins and little Jace, man. He's rocking over there. No, I don't know. I never really played that song with Sabbath. That was on the Heaven and Hell album, and I'm not on that album, on the next one. But we didn't really play that song. But it's probably like this. Okay, that's it. Nah, I'm kidding. All right, next question.
What is your favorite Tony Iommi solo?
Tony Iommi solo, let's see, probably in Heaven and Hell, you know. There's the solo that's on the album. But when I joined the band, it was the Heaven and Hell tour, and we played Heaven and Hell, obviously, at some point. And the solo was kind of set. But then as we got used to playing together, you know, it got longer and longer and longer. And I swear, the last tour we did with Heaven and Hell, 2009, that solo might have been 15 minutes to 20 minutes sometimes, because we were jamming and we were loving it, you know. So that solo was fantastic, and it's in time with the reverb, the delay. It's just a killer solo. All Tony solos, you could tell it's Tony, you know. Weird, the strange notes that nobody else would go to, you know. Very dark. Tony's, you know, one of the legends, one of the greatest. So, okay, let's take another question.
How do you tune your toms? The tom compared to the bottom, the top.
You know, I don't pay much attention to the bottom, you know, but the rest of the drum, I'm gonna get down here. Yeah, I'll get the bottom so it's almost about the same tuning as the top, but I go lug to lug. See, this one's a little tiny bit flat, so I'll bring it up. That's a little flat. So I usually try to tune lug to lug, and then to get the spread, that's pretty close. So I know what they sound like. So they sound like what I'm feeling, like da 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 rah, you know, that kind of thing. But you gotta have the spread. If you had this drum too low, like, check it out. So it's a little higher than this, tuned a little higher than this, but it doesn't sound good. That doesn't make sense. So if you go, you need more spread between these two guys here. This could be higher. See? It goes from up here all the way down to the big guy and then the biggest guy in the kit. So that's the way I tune them, and then lug to lug. So when I'm recording, I finish a take, because I'm working on Joel Hostra's album, recording it here. I got 2 songs so far. Just me and Joel. No bass on there yet. But after the take, you know, the snare sounds good, then I have to check it. Sometimes they move a little bit. See, this is a little flat. That's a little high. See? Now Now they're almost both the same. But when you're recording, if you're going to punch in and stuff, and you're at the end of the song, you could tweak it up a little bit to give it a little more crack. But you don't want to tweak it too much, because then you hear if you punched in, you hear it a different sound. It's higher, so that doesn't work very good, So that's what I do. Yeah. Let's take a couple more questions. Right after this outburst. See what that is, which I like, is starting with your left. The singles alternating. Bass drums with your right hand. Almost they're on the uhs. 1, 2, 3. And just putting the bass drum on the uhs with your right hand, you can use that as a fill, and it's really powerful. Do all sorts of things like that. So this, the fast one, is just. Good way to practice. Get them clean. So you could do paradiddles. Set it up with the singles first. Right? Here we go. Okay, that was that outburst. Let's get another question.
How did Geezer and Tony react to you playing with the Beatles or with John Lennon?
I didn't really go into it with them so much, but but we did record the first Marbrul version in John Lennon's house in England in 1982. We were on 80. Oh, that's good. I'm going to write a book. That's what it's going to be like. Well, in 1982, oh, wait a minute, 81, no, 80, that's the tour. We did the soundtrack for the movie Heavy Metal. We were on tour, and we went to John's house. He was passed already. Ringo owned it. There's a studio there. But it's the house where John Lennon did Imagine. It was a white room. You see the piano and stuff. I was like, wow. Well, you open the closets, there are Beatle Platinum Records, awards on Beatles stuff. Everybody's freaking out. Ronnie, too. Like, wow, look at this. So I didn't brag about it. But who was really impressed was Ozzy. Ozzy, his personal came out and he goes, go tell Ozzy about when you play with John Lennon, because that's his idol. And they wore the same glasses, right? Those kind of round ones. And so I talked to Ozzy, and he was like, I said, yeah, John Lennon, and we did his last show, And Ozzy said, yeah. And I said, yeah. No, but I did talk to him, but I love Ozzy. Ozzy's a sweetheart, so you just have to understand him, So. All right, one more question.
What tom heads do you use?
What tom heads do I use? These are Evans G2s. They're just clear, and they got a great sound, a lot of resonant, a lot of tone. And if you were here in this room, you could look at these heads. I've been using these heads for quite a while. There's no dents in them, and I'm using the butt end of the stick. That's because I know how to hit them. I know the feel of them. I can get real loud with them, but I don't destroy the heads. That takes a while to develop that. Back in the day when I was a kid, I used to get all dents in the head. And then the head sounded like when the towel's on it, Boom, boom. It was all dents. And I told you this on one of the other shows. I used to put a lighter underneath, and that would shrink the head, make it tight again. But the dents were still there, and that would last a little longer, and then it sound terrible, you know. But now you look at these heads, there's no dents. I'm hitting I'm hitting where the round meets the square on this butt end. So, and I can get real loud, and I really don't dent the heads in. There's maybe one and two. I don't even see those on here, you know. And that allows me to do that. So, you know, if you're getting a lot of dents, you might want to adjust how you're playing. I'm using the wrists. See, I'm not going. I'm not doing that. I get it all in the wrist, you know. I can play that. I don't want to blast La-La out of here. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'll be back. Am I back next week? Yeah. Yeah. And we'll be in Texas tomorrow. And come check out Last in Line. And come check out the Sawtooth drums. This is the hickory drums. And they have these drums, 2 different finishes. This is a beautiful chocolate brownie. Sorry, Heidi. Chocolate cake. German chocolate cake. Hershey's chocolate syrup color.
Oh, yum.
I mean,
Yum.
you can almost, you know, eat these things. They're so beautiful. And then they have a maple kind of finish. And then there's also the Command Series, which I was using before that, which we bring up every once in a while. And that's the cheapest set made out of poplar wood, which sounds great. Matter of fact, on the Joel Hostris album, I put up the old Command Series snare drum, and it's not an expensive snare drum, and it sounded great. This snare drum, for some reason, this thing sounds great on this Facebook thing. And the head's starting to lose the white on it. This is an Evans heavyweight. This is like, you know, you see the jazz guys in the middle, it's all worn out and it's clear. That's what this is becoming, but it still sounds good. It's still got attack. It's got ring. Love this head. Double paradiddle. So anyway, thanks for joining me. I'll be back next week. Check out the shirts. They're really cool. We're selling a lot of them, so I only got about, how many did we get made? 60, 70. So they're the Drum Monster. I am the Drum Monster. I got a watch from Fossil, and they engraved it, Drum Monster, but it was so small I can't even see it. Should have did it, like drum and monster underneath, but I didn't want that. Anyway, I'll see you guys next week, and be safe, and all good. Thanks to Sawtooth and Chromacast, and these are Sabian cymbals, Evans drum heads.